Hello there everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Elliot Webber and obviously it is once again race week, the penultimate race week of the 2024 BTCC season. Yeah, the season is coming to a close very soon, unfortunately. This year's gone very quickly. But in the heat of the amazing championship battle that we are having between Ash Sutton, Jake Hill and Tom Ingram, I thought, well, why don't I ask some of you lot your hottest BTCC takes? Yep, I'm doing it again. I did this a couple of years ago in 2022, and we're doing a second one. This is BTCC Hot Takes 2. So let's get straight into this. So this first one coming in from Sam Enderby on Facebook. He says tyre stacks should be removed before we see a serious injury. Now, I said a couple of weeks ago that this was worthy of its own video topic to talk about, but I thought, well, why don't we just talk about it here? Percy, Sam, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. Obviously, this is probably referencing the big crash Andrew Watson had in the first race at Donington Park, where he got turned sideways. He hit the tyre stacks at the chicane before going onto the GP loop at Donington Park, and he went airborne, as you can see in the thumbnail and whatnot. It was a very big crash, and thankfully Andrew Watson didn't roll over, and also thankfully he wasn't collected by anyone. Yeah, I agree. I don't get why tyre stacks are still a thing. We've seen it multiple times now where we've had cars collecting tyre stacks and them either damaging their car, or in the case of Andrew Watson, having a massive crash. You know, I do think that, you know, safety is still a huge priority, and obviously for some reason Motorsport UK seem to think that this is the safest way, whereas I don't think so. Personally, for me, if there's track to use, then let them use it. You know, it's like with, you know, these modern day Formula One tracks. You know, they have these long stretches of tyre mac, yet they can't use them for some reason. You know, why have this long runoff area as part of the track if they're not going to use it? Just, you know, either just fill it up with the parts with grass or with gravel. You know, because if you go onto grass or gravel, if you're on a qualifying lap, you're going to lose that supposed advantage anyway. So tyre stacks, as mentioned, they are dangerous. They are pretty pointless to an extent. You know, again, I understand why Motorsport UK have mandated tyre stacks in certain areas, unless it's TOCA, but from my understanding, I do believe it's Motorsport UK. You know, I don't get why tyre stacks have been mandated to stop track limits, because you're not, because at some point the cars are just going to hit them anyway. And you know, they kept the, you know, we've had multiple safety cars purely because of tyre stacks getting moved. We had it at Thruxton earlier this year as well, where a tyre stack got hit at the chicane, and we had a 5-lap safety car just to move the tyre stacks. You know, so if it's such a nuisance to move them, why have them there in the first place? You know, just, you know, I'm not too sure. You know, I'm not too sure what we need to do, but something needs to be done, because, as Sam said, someone is probably going to get hurt at some point if tyre stacks continue to be a thing. So hopefully Motorsport UK or TOCA or someone can, or, you know, even MSV, if it's an MSV track, then hopefully, you know, yeah, someone at MS UK, TOCA or MSV can hopefully get this sorted. Because, yeah, as Sam mentioned, we don't want to see drivers getting injured, and we don't want to see spectacular crashes like Andrew Watson's one from a couple of weeks ago. So, yeah, Sam, I agree with you. We need to remove tyre stacks. Now let's move on to the next hot take. So the next hot take, and Dan Mayu here has given us 3. He says the BTCC is not dying and is having its best season in years. Supertouring isn't as golden as people remember, and removing ballast and replacing it with hybrid was a good move. Wow. Definitely some hot ones. It's a hot day today, so maybe it's those takes that are heating it up here. Starting off with the first one, the BTCC is having its best season in years. Dan, I agree with you. I think, you know, there's been a lot of negativity on Facebook, on Twitter, or elsewhere. You know, there's been so much negativity of people saying, oh, the BTCC's dead, it's not as good as it used to be, blah, blah, blah. Now, you know, coming from someone who has been watching BTCC for about 12 years, 12, 13 years now. I believe this is my 13th full season of watching BTCC. You know, so I have seen enough to judge whether or not a BTCC season is good or bad. 2023 was a bad season. It was a bad BTCC season. Though at the same time, we still had some great races in 2023. But as obviously with the dominance of Ash Sutton, with the lack of, you know, obviously the hybrid was poor in 2023. I think everyone can agree on that. But 2024 has been phenomenal. We've had a phenomenal season. This is the first time in a while that I've actually been excited to watch the upcoming BTCC event. I didn't get that a lot in 2023, and there were only some events in 2022 that I was excited to watch. Obviously, you know, having Tom Ingram and Ash Sutton batting in 2022 was great. Obviously, 2023, as we mentioned, wasn't that good, wasn't great for BTCC standards. But 2024 has been brilliant. We've had the ever improving Jake Hill finally looking like he might be the man to win it this year. We've had Tom Ingram once again, still being great as always. We've got Ash Sutton, who isn't as dominant as he was last year, but he is still there. We cannot write off Ash Sutton. Plus, we've had Dan Camish. We've been great. Josh Cook's back in the game again. Colin Turkington is still proving why he is probably not going to retire for at least a couple more years, although, you know, maybe my prediction might be right this year. But yeah, 2024 has been a great year, and I think depending on who wins this championship will determine whether or not this season will be remembered, because I'm going to be honest, I think 2023 was a very forgettable year in terms of touring cars. I think the only reason it will be remembered is because of Ash Sutton's dominance and the fact his history-making fourth championship. So yeah, but this year's been great. As I mentioned, we've had Jake Hill improving year on year. We've had Josh Cook and Dan Camish returning to form. We've obviously had Rob Huff return. We've had Tom Chilton back winning races. Obviously, earlier this year, we had Ronan Pearson take his maiden win. Mikey Doble's phenomenal race to take his first podium. We have had so many good stories this year that 2024, hopefully, is a return to norm. Hopefully going into 2025 and 2026, which is the last year of the NGTC cars, hopefully we will have two more very close seasons in the next couple of years. And I'm very excited for this weekend to see who will go into Brands Hatch with the advantage and who will potentially walk out 2024 champion. So yes, Dan, I agree. 2024 has been a great season, and the BTCC is not dying. It's nowhere near dying. Come on. We've still got 20 cars on the grid. As I said at the start of the year, that's still a lot more than some of, you know, than 2001, 2002, etc. Still, it's still a fairly decent grid. So yeah, anyway, moving on to Dan's second take, and this one will be talked about a lot, I think. Super Touring wasn't as golden as people remember. That, Dan, is absolutely mental. Now, some of you are probably going to be angry at me because I'm going to be honest, I can't really comment on this. I can't comment on this at all, to be honest. As all of you will probably know, I wasn't even alive when Super Touring was around. I was somewhere, obviously not here. So I can't really comment. The only thing I can comment on is from stuff I've seen, which is, of course, stuff on YouTube, stories my dad's told me, and of course the big box set I've got. Actually, give me a minute. Let me find this. Let me find this somewhere. Oh, sugar. Right, this here. Don't know if you can see that. All the DVDs from 94 to 99. Phenomenal collection. Birthday present from my dad. Thanks. So yeah, so my only experience of Super Touring is from what I've seen there and from the stories that Alain Menu told me and John Clellan told me from my interviews with them. Go check those out. They're great. So yeah, those are really my only sort of experience with Super Touring. So from what I've seen, it was phenomenal. We had manufacturer teams. We had big money drivers. We had big money manufacturers. We had new cars almost every year. We had wheel to wheel, bumper to bumper. But I will say that in terms of actual championship fights, I will agree. Because you look at, 94, Alfa Romeo and Tarquini, dominated. 95, John Clennon and Vauxhall, dominated. 96, Frank Biela and Audi, they dominated. 97, Alain Menu took like 12 wins. I think that was the year Alain Menu took 12 wins in a year, or it was 2000. It was one or the other. Alain Menu, he dominated his championship. Ricard Rydell, I think Ricard Rydell was the only one that didn't dominate his championship when he won it. I think as well, Laurent Aiello, I don't think dominated either. I think he and David Leslie had a close fight. So it was only really those last, and also 2000, because obviously Anthony Reid and Alain Menu had a very close fight, because in fact Alain Menu won that championship on, I believe it was drop scores, because back then only a certain amount of your points counted towards the championship. So Alain Menu technically only won that on a technicality, technically. So yeah. So in a certain way, I would say yes, but at the same time no, because I think it's very unfair for me to comment on that, because I wasn't there. I didn't experience it. My only experience, as I mentioned, my only real experience of super touring was those DVDs and the Super Touring Car Power events that I've been to. So it's I'll be honest, it is unfair for me to say, but I will say in terms of championship fights, that's where they lacked. But everything else was great. Everything else was phenomenal. We have to remember, Super Touring attracted Nigel Mansell to BTCC, so it did something right. But yeah, any of you old nutters out there, if you want to comment your experiences with Super Touring, your favourite memories of Super Touring, do let me know in the comments below, because I'm intrigued and I always love having a conversation with you guys. So yeah, now moving on to Dan's last take. Removing ballast and replacing it with hybrid was a good move. At first, no. I think 2022 was a bit of a hit or miss. It was like there were some great races with the hybrid, and then there were some very poor races with the hybrid. 2023, terrible. It got so bad that I was actually advocating removing hybrid as well. I didn't want to be one of those people, because I always try and look at the positive things in touring cars. But it got that bad that even I even mentioned it earlier, I wasn't enjoying BTCC in 2023. It got that bad. But 100% this year, the changes that have been made have improved the racing. They've improved the excitement. Not only that, the tyre rule for race 2 at the majority of the events has been phenomenal. The qualifying format is great. I love it. All the changes that Alan Gow and Toka have made this year have improved BTCC. And hopefully Alan Gow and Toka, they look at that and they don't change anything. Nothing really needs to be changed properly, I will say, from the racing and the technical side. So just keep it as it is for at least the next 2 years before we get the new cars in 2027. So yeah, I would agree with that. Replacing it with hybrid was a good move. I know there are some people who, prefer the ballast. To me, it was a hit or miss, because one thing that a lot of people have said is that there were cars just winning 2 races in 2 weekends. But we've had that with ballast, and even with ballast, we've had 2 drivers taking hat-trick wins. Obviously, Danny's and Plato. So, given how we haven't had any hat-trick winners in the hybrid era, I think it's safe to say that it's working out. Now let's move on to the next take, because I've been waffling on for too long. So the next one coming in from Matt Fuller. He says the BTCC is quiet without Jason Plato, and we need some new body shells in BTCC. Now, starting off with the second one of that, with the new body shells, I agree. I am a little bit bored of seeing the same old cars every year. However, Alan Gow has said that we are getting a new set regulation change in 2027, which unfortunately means we are likely going to see these same old cars at least for another 2 years, purely because there isn't enough manufacturer interest in bringing in a new car and then just developing it for 2 years. That's pointless, and it is also a waste of money given how expensive it is to run a BTCC car nowadays. So I do agree. We should see some new cars. I think realistically, hopefully Ford, can put in some type, or Napa just can buy, I don't know, maybe a new shell. I would like to see the facelift the facelift Focus come in BTCC. Obviously, technically, we have had a facelift BMW. It is only the facelift, though. It is still the same chassis. So I do know what you're saying. But yeah, and as for Jason Plateau in BTCC, of course, man, he was arguably the face of the championship for over 20 years. No doubt JP is a legend, but at the same time, we do need to move on. We do need to stop looking back at the past. You can still celebrate the past, no doubt. I still miss Matt Neal and Gordon Shedden. So yeah, no doubt it is. I would say it's definitely a quieter, maybe. It does feel a little different, no doubt. It is a little weird not seeing Plato's name on the leaderboards anymore. But we do have some new faces. Not only that, we've still got some of the old guard of BTCC. Turkington is still here. Tom Chilton's still here. Rob Huff is still here. Hopefully those lot can continue on for at least 5 or so years. But yeah, it will be a shame to see all of those older names that we grew up watching not be here anymore. But let's not forget, we are in the midst of a great championship battle with the new 3 faces of BTCC. Ash Sutton, Tom Ingram, Jake Hill. They are the 3 big names in BTCC. If you go to a BTCC event, those are the 3 names you want to see. At least in my opinion, anyways. So yeah, that's that take. Now let's move on to, I believe, one more take to go through. So this last one coming in from Front Runner Motorsport on YouTube. Please go check out their channel because they make phenomenal content of Formula One, BTCC, WRC, the lot. Go check out their channel; it's great. So yeah, so Front Runner Motorsport, they said that the Birmingham Super Prix Street Track is the best BTCC track ever, and it's a shame that there hasn't been any more street tracks in BTCC. Well, I'm going to agree with that. I've never experienced the Birmingham Super Prix. Again, I'm way too young to experience that. So unfortunately, my only experience will have to be the F3 races on YouTube or the BTCC ones, no doubt. But this is something that I was thinking about making a video on, is that could we see a street race in BTCC in the future? To me, I don't see it, unfortunately. I know, of course, we have street races at the XL with Formula E. Of course, there have been many years of London hosting a Formula One race on a street circuit. Obviously, that's ever Silverstone can't afford the funds, but I highly doubt that. So yeah, there's always been, personally, I would love to see a street track for BTCC because, as Britain's premier racing series, I personally would love to see it. Not only that, it's a little bit of variety. I know a lot of people do not like street tracks, but at the same time, it's different. It's unique. It can, sometimes it can spice things up. It could be a Monaco-like track where it's not the best of, it's not the most exciting race, or it could be something like Macau that just spurs up chaos and whatnot. Personally, for me, I would very much like to see a street track at some point in the future, but due to the fact that you turn a corner on any A road in the UK, there will be either houses built or houses being built, and I think to get the local support for a street track, especially for something like BTCC, which unfortunately still isn't massively well known per se. You will see a ton of people in the UK, they'll know Formula One, but they won't know BTCC, which obviously is a shame. But again, you can't make comparisons to a world championship and a national championship. But yeah, even so, I would very much like to see a street track at some point. As for the Birmingham Super Prix street track, well, again, I can't judge. I don't think I've watched anything on the Birmingham Super Prix, so call me a fake BTCC fan. But But yeah, that is it, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What are some of your hot BTCC takes? Who knows? Maybe I'll make a trilogy of these. Thank you guys for watching. Of course, if you're new around here, be sure to like this video, share with your mates as well, because it, of course, does help my channel grow. And, of course, press that red subscribe button, because we are firmly on the road to 300 subscribers. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see all of you in the next one. Goodbye.